Welcome to the most wonderful time of the year, tax season. This live stream was supposed to be like helpful tax hints. I promise I'll try to include something helpful in here, but it's very likely it's just going to turn into a Turbotax rant, which, I feel like I need to specify that I have previously had sponsored content by Intuit, which runs Turbotax, as well as Mint, and what else does it? Mint, QuickBooks, I don't know, kind of never-ending list of financially related software. But, I have feelings about TurboTax, and I'm not currently sponsored by them, so I can talk about whatever I want. And me and the Federal Trade Commission and the California Department of Commerce all agree that TurboTax sucks. So that's what we're going to talk about. Although I will talk about some of the things that are special for the 2021 tax year, because there was a bunch of stuff that only applies for the 2021 tax year, which is, you're filing this week. If you haven't filed yet, you're filing this week for 2021. It's confusing because it is 2022 right now, but you file for the previous year. And, some people are still waiting on their 2020 tax returns, given what a mess it's been. So, I will share some of the things that are a little special for 2021, because part of the last COVID relief bill essentially included a lot of 1 year only special things, most of which will mean that you get more money back if you're in a lower or middle income range than you would have in, a previous year. This donut is really something. It is called a red velvet crispy, and it has a full-on, toasted marshmallow on the top. I mean, that is a donut, if nothing else. And so, I'm not entirely sure if I'll like it, because those are, Cocoa Krispies on the top, but I'm kind of hoping it won't be terribly, terribly chocolate. David says, evening, did I miss tax talk? No. Well, we haven't even gotten started yet. It's really, really going to be fun. Dean, hello. I can't believe that you are up at 1 a.m. your time to listen to American taxes, but it is a delight to see you regardless. Aaron says, ugh, don't remind me. I still haven't technically finished my 2021 return because they won't pick up the phone. I feel like you, don't call them right now. That's definitely not going to work. Mimi says, hi, Lillian. Nice donut. Hi, Mimi. I also sent you stickers this week. Thank you for becoming a patron. Mimi is the newest Oh My Dollar patron. So if you are interested in also being a patron, you can join in the Personal Finance Society with the link down below. It's at ohmydollar.com/support. And so I sent you stickers this week, Mimi. It is, which is very funny, because I'm pretty sure Aaron is going to file 2021's taxes before 2022's taxes get filed. So we'll find out how that goes. Reminder for anyone that doesn't know, April 18th this year is tax day for most Americans. However, if you are a Maine or a Massachusetts resident, then your tax day is the next day, because Patriot Day, whatever that is a holiday for people who live in Massachusetts and Maine, and therefore you guys get an extra day for your federal taxes, which I don't know, seems weird and a little unfair to me, but okay. And what that means is if you can't get them done, all you have to do is file a free extension on the IRS website, and that will give you until October 17th to file your return. Most states, if you have state income tax return that is also due, if you need a little bit more time to complete those as well, usually they will give you an extension till the same date, but there are a couple states where that's a little different in. Thing to know, though, is just because you have extra time to turn in your return if you file an extension, you don't actually have extra time to pay money that you owe. So if you do suspect that you're going to owe, you are expected to pay money to the IRS, which you can do through the IRS's website. You can mail them a check if you desperately want to. And they, for how much you think your taxes are going to be. And if you don't, they will charge you a penalty when you end up having to pay. So, yes, it is just important things to know about taxes. There is a ton of interesting things going on for 2021 taxes. So, yeah. Mimi already got the stickers. Wow, I'm really impressed that they have already arrived. David says, this is the first time in years I haven't gotten a refund because of the involuntary temporary pay cut I received in 2021, thanks to the pandemic. Ooh, involuntary temporary pay cut sounds terrible. I like the word temporary in there, though. It's definitely going to be interesting to see how things are going to be affected for people. So, one important thing to note, one extremely special thing that probably affects the second greatest number of taxpayers for 2021 is that if you get your healthcare through the exchanges, so through healthcare.gov or whatever your state exchange is, just for 2021 only, premiums are capped at 8.5% of your household income. I just heard something crash over there, and I feel like a cat is responsible for it, so we'll find out what's happening. I don't know what just fell on the floor. But what is important to know about the cap of 8.5% is that applies there is no upper income limit on it. So if, for example, you overestimated your income for 2021 and you were paying for your healthcare premiums all year through the ACA exchange, there is a possibility you will get extra money back at tax time because they are keeping health insurance premiums for some bizarre reason only for 2021 at 8.5% of your income. Previously, that ended if your family income was more than 400% of the federal poverty level, which for a single person, I believe, is about $60,000-ish for 2021. And it goes up, obviously, the larger your household is. But that applies to everyone for 2021. And what is even more interesting is for 2021 only, if you received any amount of unemployment compensation for any part of the year, your premium tax credits will be paid as though your 2021 income was no higher than 133% of the federal poverty level, regardless of how much your actual income is. So if you received a single unemployment check in 2021, even if your overall income was quite high, you might actually end up getting a ton of money back at tax time because your federal, the ACA is going to reimburse you for whatever you paid for ACA premiums as though your income is 133% of the poverty level, which means that you would receive the maximum subsidy that you can receive other than qualifying for Medicaid. So it is really important to understand that. One thing that is also important to understand that is true every year, it's not special for 2021, but if you underestimated your income, you may have to repay your premium subsidies. So this is something that was true until 2020, and then 2020 for 1 year only was the year where they said, it doesn't matter if you underestimated your income, no matter what, you don't have to repay your premium tax credits, which really lucked out for me. I ended up getting an extra almost $2,400 back. I did a live stream about that the week that I got it, just randomly from the IRS. because you were not required to repay any excess premiums for 2020. However, that rule is gone for 2021. So if you did underestimate your income and you didn't receive any unemployment income last year, then you may have to repay some of your stickers, or I just read the word stickers, some of your premium tax credit. David says it was involuntary temporary pay cuts for many, or it would have been furlough for more. My employer's business did go down in 2020 to nearly nil for a bit there. Oof, no fun. Hopefully it's kind of back for you all. It does, all of the data says that the economy is super hot right now, which is why we're raising interest rates, but it's definitely not hot across everything. So, Mimi says, I'm using your stickers on my Hobonichi cousin Avec. I think your Hobonichi planner video showed up on my YouTube feed initially because I watch a ton of planner videos. Oh, I'm excited that I have to report that I am going to be doing a kind of planner related video this upcoming week. I'm going to be filming it this week. So hopefully I actually edit it on time. So a edited video related to planners is coming. So hopefully that will be fun for you if you like planner content. I've been actually really heavily using less my weekly or my daily pages in my Hobonichi cousin. I've been using my Jimbun Techo, which is so boring looking. Jimbun Techo days, but I just love the layout and it's the perfect size for dailies for me. But I still use the weeklies all the time in my Hobonichi. How soon do we want to dive into a TurboTax rant? Should I tell you other things? So I said that the capped premiums for the ACA was probably the thing that affected the second largest number of taxpayers that's special for 2021. The number one thing that probably affects most taxpayers for 2021 is the child tax credit. So essentially, the American Rescue Plan boosted the child tax credit to $3,000 for families with kids 17 and under for 2021, with an extra $600 if you have a kid under the age of 6. A lot of people got these extra payments as part of a monthly advanced premium in the fall of 2021. That being said, if your income ended up being lower than it had on your 2020 taxes, then you might get extra money back at that. If you had a kid during the year of 2021, then you're going to end up getting that money back at tax time for that because you probably didn't get the advanced premium credits. I've talked before about how the child tax credit advanced premiums was a significant policy that it is a bummer that it has expired because the expanded child tax credit had the single largest effect of any tax policy on childhood poverty in the US. The second that those ended in January, we saw childhood poverty go up by 41% in the United States. And that program and the way that it was implemented with the monthly payments, with making that even the lowest income folks qualified for it, which previously is not true and is not true again, and the upped amount made a huge difference. So I think that is what is important to understand. The other downside of that is you may have to pay back the child tax credit if you got advanced premiums and it turns out that your overall household income went up. So for a single filer, you need to have a modified adjusted gross income of less than $75,000 to qualify for those. And for married couples filing together, you have to earn less than $150,000. So it is important to understand that you might have to pay it back if for some reason you earned more than you had previously and you got those as advance payments. A way to figure out if that is true is to check the IRS's child tax credit portal. They have like a special portal to track the payments because for some reason the IRS was assigned to get everybody monthly payments to which they also everybody said was impossible and the IRS wasn't going to be able to do, but then they actually did like a pretty phenomenal job at it. Anyway, I linked the child tax credit portal down below if it's relevant to you, if you're not sure how many you got, that is important to understand. Abel Jack says, no more monthly money for child ownership. No, why did it end? I'm behind the curve. So it ended because it was actually never proposed to be longer than 2021. It was actually, the monthly payments were only, they were passed in the American Rescue Bill, which was passed last spring. They gave the IRS some lead time, and the payments started coming out in the fall of last year. But it was always known that they were only going to go through the end of 2021. I think the initial hope was that we were going to have a fourth stimulus bill of some sort. Daddy Biden was going to cancel everybody's student loans. That obviously did not happen. They couldn't even pass a transportation package of any sort, which is usually pretty bipartisan. So, and should be even more bipartisan now that oil prices are so high, but apparently not. So that is the reason it didn't get expanded. I would say the other reason it didn't get expanded is that people like to punish children that are poor. So, I mean, what? Abel Jack says now they have to pay it back. What is happening? So it was actually always true that you would have to pay it back if you were over a certain amount, but they expanded who qualified for it for 2021. So yeah. Abel Jack says, oh, was actually institution of CTC wrapped up in BBB? Bummer. Yes. So kind of a bummer, but, it was, I gotta say, doing those kind of experiments, it was essentially the largest scale experiment on what it would look like to give a low level of universal basic income to all parents. A lot of other rich countries do have payments for parents that are distributed on a monthly basis. And the United States is one of the only developed countries, we're considered one of, even after transfers and credits, one of the countries that is the most expensive to be a parent in, is the worst at supporting low-income parents of rich countries. So, real uplifting, right? That is partially contributes to the fact that we actually just have very few policies in place to, 51% of Americans do not work for an employer that's even required to offer them unpaid parental leave. We are one of only 2 countries in the world that does not offer paid parental leave to mothers. So yeah. David says, what is bipartisan? We don't have that in America anymore. I will note that there was the expanded child tax credit addition to the American Rescue Plan was in fact bipartisan. So I think it had one Republican or something like that. But it is surprisingly the child tax credit is surprisingly popular, and some of that has to do with the fact that a lot of the more conservative states that tend to really look down on expanded benefits have are often the places where childhood poverty is the highest and tend to have a higher birth rate than some of the more liberal states. So yeah. Dean says, I read about that. New mothers going back to work after a few days. Yikes. I mean, welcome to America. So yeah, we have the Family Medical Leave Act here in the United States. Once again, I will note that we also have no statutory requirement for sick time at all, paid sick time at all in the United States. We had some temporary provisions put in by COVID, which were done through our unemployment system, which is a bananas way to do it. But the Family Medical Leave Act entitles you to 12 weeks of unpaid leave to take care of a family member and for birth or adoption of a child. It is not limited to who is the birth parent or not. However, you have to work for an employer that has greater than 50 employees. And 51% of Americans do not work for an employer that has greater than 50 full-time employees. So, and that's unpaid. just to emphasize, we have no such thing as statutory leave for parents. So, I was someone I follow, Hannah Witten on YouTube, has lives in the UK and is having a kid, and she was talking about how, as a self-employed person, she's planning the way that she's going to be doing her parental leave, because essentially she decided not to take the statutory leave that she was entitled to, even as a self-employed person, because you weren't allowed to do any kind of work. And since she works in social media, she was afraid, like, oh, if I even like post like picture, or I like have someone like film the birth or something, then that would count as work, and then I might not qualify for the statutory leave. So she decided to just self-fund it herself. But she was complaining that even her husband, who works a like regular normal pay job, as it's called in the UK, gets only 2 weeks of statutory parental leave. And I was like, the idea that you have statutory paternal leave in the UK when we can't even get statutory leave for the birth parent in the United States. So, yeah. Craig says, advanced child tax credit was not helpful for a person who already had withholding set to almost have zero refund. Now I got to send back almost all of advanced child tax credit. Yeah, I know that was like a huge problem for a lot of people, because a lot of people were like, how do I get this so that I don't want this? Because I know a lot of people are just kind of like holding on to it. So yeah. David says, New York got paid sick leave in 2020 for employers with 5 or more employees of incomes more than 1 million, and under 5 employees, unpaid sick leave, 1 hour for every 30 worked. Yes, a lot of states now have paid sick leave. Oregon has had it. I have only worked for one employer that actually had enough employees, which I think the threshold was at 5. Once again, I think they really underestimate how many people work for employers that are small employers. Even in my city, because it was only citywide for the paid sick leave, unpaid was done at our state level in Oregon. You had to work for an employer with more than 5 employees in the city of Portland. And I think people really underestimate how much micro businesses make up a huge amount of the economy. I mean, it's great to have paid sick leave. I will also say that New York has like a higher minimum wage. They have a lot more worker protections. Part of the reason that they do have so much of that is because unions are so strong in New York City, which is like props to the first unionized Amazon warehouse that happened, I believe, this week in Staten Island. And, one of the things that the organizers said about the Amazon warehouse vote was it was easier in New York City than it was, for example, in Bessemer, Alabama, where the second union vote failed, because New York City is very much a union town. A lot of people, the bus drivers are all in a union. The public school employees are all in a union. A lot of people know union workers in New York City, and one of the reasons that you can get better protections in New York State is because a lot of people already have those kind of protections and workers' rights through collective bargaining agreements. And the employers that don't want to end up with a union among employees are often not going to fight it, because to be competitive anyway, they need to offer kind of similar protections. So, also it's very liberal city, right? So, which is also why we have it in Oregon. But yeah. Dean says, yeah, it's something like 40% of businesses are small businesses, something like that. In Oregon, 1 out of every 3 businesses is a micro business, which means that it has less than 5 employees. So, I mean, it is extremely notable that a lot of people work for micro businesses, and it is, it's very easy to kind of wave your hand. And, one of the pushbacks that we often get when we come to compromises around labor and tax issues is that Republicans and conservatives like to protect small businesses. That's, the claim that they're always making. That's what a lot of the foundations of it are. And one of the ways that we actually are able to pass what we are able to pass is that Republicans will, push to, or conservatives will push for, higher limits on whether or not these um, you know, labor regulations even apply to them. Like, for example, a lot of people, like the United States, because of the American with Disabilities Act, actually has some of the strongest protections for employees with disabilities. Whether or not that actually pans out into a workplace that's friendly for people with disabilities is one challenge. But it is important to note that even that is not universal. If you work for a small employer, then they aren't even required to make reasonable accommodations for you if you have a disability. And so it's like important to kind of understand. Yeah. Mimi says, we have here in Buffalo the first ever unionized Starbucks. Huzzah. Oh, right. Yes, I forgot that happened this week. I'm really excited about it because I think that, a lot of the narrative that Starbucks management, I'm a former partner at Starbucks too. So like I have at least some insight into the, like, what it's like as an employee of Starbucks. And, their line is, we already really lead in workers, benefits, and you don't want a union between us, benevolent management at Starbucks, and you, a partner, which they also call you a partner, which is just corporate speak for an employee, but they use that in order to make you, I don't know, brainwash you into feeling like you're a partner in their business. I will say the employee benefits are really fantastic. Like, Starbucks was one of the first employers ever to offer health insurance to part-time employees. I know they also cover like fertility treatment. They have like an assistance fund for employees, which a lot of large employers have as well, for like disasters. They offer free college through Arizona State University. Like, some of my coworkers were working there because they can work part-time and get a college degree for free from Starbucks online. And they, but that is the point, is that like having a union doesn't have to be just because your employer treats you like crap. Like, they say they want to have a better seat at the table of how they kind of like discuss things. They want to have like just more say in the way that things run, and they want to have a better seat at the table. And, I think it's very like easy for, people to make the assumption that workers should only unionize if they work for a really crappy employer. But there are reasons to unionize that don't happen for that. So anyway, I'm very interested to kind of follow that. Abel Jack says, everybody's happy about unions until it's suddenly about unions for law enforcement officers. Mildly bitter. I do think that is really interesting part of it. I think that you often see that for government unions, where people are really happy about unions until it's, teachers union protecting, public school teachers that suck, or, police officers being protected by the police union, despite the fact that they've killed someone on duty, or, whatever it might be. I think that is one of the downsides of public employee unions, is that they quite commonly get blamed for things. I think the only union for public employees that I don't regularly see getting blamed for, like, oh, these fat cats with these union jobs, is that you don't tend to see a lot of it for, like, what's the crap? I just, like, forgot. Oh, postal workers, because postal workers are unionized. That being said, our taxes don't pay for postal workers. Postal workers are supported by postage revenue. So I mean, that might be part of it. I do think that's kind of interesting. Mimi says, honestly, I don't understand why Starbucks engages in such blatant anti-union tactics, because they're a large corporation. I mean, it's like, have you met a large corporation that wants their employees to unionize? I don't think that's like a thing. So yeah, I also say, like, I know a lot of people who are partners that really had a lot of issues with Starbucks during the pandemic around safety and concerns about like, violence or like abuse from, people that like from customers, which they also called guests because once again they love their marketing. So yeah. David says large corporations and I do not socialize in the same circles. Fair. um, David says European unions versus American unions. Thoughts? I actually don't have a lot of deep knowledge of European unions since, like, the beginning of the beginning of the labor movement. So no, I don't have thoughts. I would be interested to do with thoughts, but I think I'd have to bring in someone smarter than me that knows more about it. City overall is liberal, but not Staten Island. Yes, but to be fair, I don't think the majority of workers that work at the Amazon warehouse live in Staten Island. So there is that. Where was that? Which neighborhood was that? The one by the airport? Crap, why can I not remember it? Long Island. Not Long Island itself. What's the other neighborhood that has Long Island in the name? Oh my God. Anyway, one of the boroughs in New York City that was going to get an Amazon warehouse, and then everybody blocked the Amazon warehouse from going in. I do wonder if there had been an Amazon warehouse that had ended up moving in there, if they would have found that would have been more effective. So what I'm really interested in is if years from now, this all winds through court and the employee that organized the Amazon union is going to end up getting all the back pay from wrongful termination suit. I know someone who had a wrongful termination suit against Wild Oats back in Cincinnati, where I lived, and it took like 6 years, I think, for it to finally wrap up, and it was because he was trying to organize the Wild Oats in Cincinnati, and he with the Wobblies, and he got fired. It was a wrongful termination. He filed a wrongful termination suit. It finally got decided in his favor, and they had to pay him all of the back pay since the date of termination, which is like wild. He like moved on to a different job and everything there. Long Island City in Queens, correct. Thank you. Yes. The Long Island City, I don't think it's in Queens, is it? It's just Long Island City. I think it's just in Long Island. But Long Island City, yes, was where they were trying to build an Amazon warehouse a couple years ago, and then essentially like locals like yelled about it enough that it ended up not getting built there. So, Mimi says, New York State public school teacher here, plenty of teacher union hate all over. Yeah, I think like universally teacher unions get like really, really shit on. I worked at a unionized grocery store, which was Kroger. And then I moved to a non-union grocery store, which was operated by Super Value, which is a French brand. This is the US version of it. The actual store name that I worked at was Biggs, but it was under the corporation of Super Value. And Kroger's also Fred Meyer. If you live in a different half of the country, Kroger owns like half the brands. But they like when the Biggs that I started working at opened in the same parking lot as like one of the first Krogers ever, and the most profitable Kroger in the country at the time. I moved from working at that Kroger to working at Biggs, and Biggs was very like, they had worked hard to make the benefits good enough that people would not try to want to organize. I ended up making almost 50% higher. So I made $5.05 an hour at Biggs, which was minimum wage at the time. I think it was like 5 cents above minimum wage at the time. And then I made $7.50 an hour starting at Biggs. And for the same like front level cashier position. And you also got, you could also get tuition payment for $2 an hour for every hour that you worked. You would get put into an account that you could use to pay for tuition for college. And I knew people that had worked at Biggs from like being 14 years old, which is how young you can get hired in Ohio, up until they graduated college, because they were able to entirely pay for, like, you know, their entire college at Northern Kentucky University or Cincinnati State, like one of kind of the 4-year ones. But what was very fascinating about Biggs is they were a very big threat to the local UFCW, which was who organized Kroger, which is like a huge union and a particularly really big union in because there are so many Krogers in Cincinnati. That's where it's based. And the what was wild, so we were opening a new store at the Biggs. So I started working there before the store opened. Got trained up with all the other people. First day, a ton of people that have been hired and trained to work there did not show up. And it was, in fact, Kroger employees who had been paid by the union to get hired at Biggs, get trained, and then go strike or picket, I guess picket, not strike, out in front of the Biggs, but in the Kroger parking lot, because they weren't like allowed to do it in the Biggs part of the parking lot, but you had to enter from the Kroger part of the parking lot in their Biggs uniforms, and like literally not show up on the first day, which is just like wild. It's very interesting to see what these like really big union tactics are. We have gotten so off track from taxes, but instead of ranting about TurboTax, I've been ranting about Biggs. Anyway, it was very interesting to see. Also, I don't know if Biggs tuition reimbursement program works anymore, because the way that they did it was that you got $2 an hour per hour that you worked in this tuition account, but you had to opt out of their traditional health insurance, which I worked there prior to the ACA. So now I'm really wondering if that actually was legal. Oh, one other weird benefit we got, which I don't believe they have anymore, was that we got Sunday pay. So Sundays, if you don't know, are like the biggest day in grocery stores. They used to not be open on Sundays. And if you live in Germany, they still aren't open on Sundays. But they are by far the biggest day in grocery stores now in the US. And in order to incentivize people to work on Sundays, essentially you got paid, it used to be time and a half for every hour you worked on any Sunday. So you could just make a killing if you put in a bunch of hours on Sunday, because they always needed people, and you could work doubles if you wanted to. And when I got hired, it was down from time and a half, and it was $150 an hour. But what was like particularly great was that you got time and a half on holidays. So if a Sunday fell on a holiday, you would get time and a half on the extra $150 an hour. It was like wild. I mean, it was really particularly great. All of the East Coasters are trying to make sure that I understand the geography of New York City. Yes, Long Island City is in the borough of Queens, which is in the same land as Long Island, as is the borough of Brooklyn, but please, it's not part of Long Island. I know that Long Island is a much deeper thing. Can we just talk about anything that the Long Island Railroad touches? Is that fair? My dad is actually from Queens, so you would think, and my aunt still lives there. She lives in Flushing. So I feel like I should specify that I should know better, but I just couldn't remember. I grew up in Manhattan and Queens, so I can't ever say Queens is on Long Island. I think that's probably fair. David says, I grew up in Queens and still live there, but yes, the people of Nassau and Suffolk are very different. Am I pronouncing Nassau correct? I've never actually really known how to pronounce that. I've only like read it. I read it a lot in Daniel Pinkwater novels. Which is like almost always takes place in Hoboken, New Jersey. Like all of his books, as far as I can tell, take place in Hoboken, New Jersey. Cheryl says, number 7 train, baby. Yep. David says, the Long Island Railroad touches Brooklyn, Queens, and Manhattan. So how does that work? I mean, I'm just basing everything on trains. That's how it works. I'm just rewriting the geography. Abel Jack says, I spent 3 months at the Brooklyn Naval Shipyard. I got most of my entertainment by loudly asking, this is New York City, right? That sounds pretty great. My grandfather worked at the Brooklyn Navy Shipyard. I mean, I know Abel Jack already knows this, but my grandfather worked at the Brooklyn Navy Shipyard for 20 plus years. I definitely have several tools that I inherited that were stolen from the Brooklyn Navy yard. So, yep. Speaking of union jobs. David says, the Corona line's good time. Yeah, my dad grew up in Corona. David is giving us some fun train facts, which is that the Long Island Railroad is the oldest railroad in the country, still operating under its original charter. That is exciting, fun news. Okay, so, I mean, should I go into my TurboTax rant? We've gotten extremely off topic from taxes, but that's fine, whatever. We all just come to hang out on a Sunday night, right? Nobody actually comes to learn anything on this live stream. They just come to watch me eat donuts and rant about things and maybe look at planners. So, the TurboTax rant. Minnie says, we learned some stuff. Great. Good. I like how Minnie is also here. Another person to which U.S. taxes did not apply. Dean says, I come to hang out, but I always learn something. I mean, that's great. David says, I could ramble about New York City transit history for hours. David, next time I'm in New York, we will visit. Let's try to make some time and we can visit my favorite museum together, which is the New York City Transit Museum. One of my favorite transit museums in the world. I will say that the Wien Transit Museum was pretty great. I don't think it was at New York City Transit Museum standards, but it was a pretty fantastic museum, I gotta say. Like, the amount of coaches that they had there was phenomenal. Also, they had like a full audio tour of everything. It was pretty fantastic. It was also a little off the beaten path, because Wien is really very much a city of museums and tourist attractions. And apparently the Transit Museum is not the leading tourist attraction in Wien. I don't know why. Mimi says, I'm still waiting for the live stream topic of the high price of gasoline since I moved out to the city where I never learned to drive to live where everyone drives, like most of the USA. I really need to do one. I have 2 coming up. One, I want to talk about gas, and then the other one I want to talk about housing, which is probably just going to be me roasting absolutely overpriced housing, while, expressing empathy for people existing in this, including myself. But I am I wanted to do the taxes because it was time sensitive. So Cheryl says, I cook and watch my daughter. Great. Thank you for here. Thank you for joining us. Hopefully I will do some cooking after this live stream, but okay. So, Minnie is like, hey, we can talk about TurboTax. Thank you for I don't know enough about TurboTax Canada, but I can tell you why TurboTax sucks. But apparently it gave Minnie a refund of $1,860 and applied my disability tax credit, and my refund is exempt from provincial disability income support. Woot! That's very exciting. So the frustrating thing about TurboTax is they've actually mostly designed a really good product for filing your taxes, which unfortunately Americans have one of the most complicated tax systems, and the fact that most people shouldn't actually need to have to prepare a tax return in the United States because quite a few people just have a regular W-2 job with withholding, and the IRS knows how much they need to owe, and they shouldn't have to file a return. This system should not be as complicated as it is. Lots of other countries do not have this bizarre system that we have in the United States. That being said, let's talk particularly about why TurboTax, despite designing like a pretty approachable, good product for being able to file your taxes online. I don't know who has filed their taxes on paper. E-file just started to be a thing shortly after I started filing taxes. So like the first, I think 3 years I did my taxes, I did them on paper. And then after that, I completely transitioned to doing e-file. And I also became a tax preparer at that point. So I don't know who remembers doing them on paper, but I think whenever we get angry, not to excuse TurboTax, it is important to remember that they did solve a problem, which was the e-file system was available, but it was hard to access. And they made it a lot easier to understand the complex world of taxes. Don't have to pay a tax preparer. All of this is kind of great. But they weren't the only company that did that, but they are the only company that the Federal Trade Commission is suing for their false advertising about free e-filing. So for years, it has been known that particularly TurboTax has done a ton of dark patterns to trap you into paying to file, despite the fact that most Americans qualify for free e-file. So if you make less than an adjusted gross income of $73,000, then you qualify for free e-file through the free e-file program from the IRS, of which there are, I believe, 14 different tax prep website companies that have an agreement and are part of the free file program from the IRS. And you should be able to use their tax preparation software. I'm getting a cat that is down here and she's looking like she's contemplating jumping on my iPad. So I'm like hoping I don't get an iPad dumped on the floor. And it is it is important to understand that other companies have also existed in this niche. However, TurboTax is the only one that is getting in trouble for the fact that they are aggressively advertising free e-file. So it's been known for years that they essentially have all these dark patterns. ProPublica did this, essentially this like deep dive investigation into the dark patterns that are used by TurboTax. And particularly one of the things that they looked at is that they make it extremely hard to actually find the link that gets you to free e-file. So, when I teach personal finance workshops, I will regularly emphasize, as I do on my show and on this live stream, that you need to follow the link from the IRS's website. And you know what? What TurboTax really doesn't want you to do, they will continuously advertise free e-filing. So the first Google ad when you search for IRS free file taxes is from TurboTax. Sure, there's lots of other companies that also emphasize this, but what is particularly notable about this ad, one, the word free is in it like 6 times, but it doesn't actually lead you to a page. It leads you to a page that says free guaranteed, says that you won't have to pay to file your federal taxes. But what they do, they get you into there and inevitably you are going to have to upgrade. But the sneaky pattern that they use is that ProPublica actually dug through the source code. And they will tag it as someone as a potential customer. And then they will find ways to deny them as being part of free file. So this particular example that they worked through was someone who was a gig worker, cleaner, made $29,000 a year, therefore definitely qualified for the free file program. However, because they had 1099 income, which legally should not exempt them from the free file program, said that they were going to have to pay $60 to file their taxes. And then they would, click the button that says, hey, wait, why do I have to pay for this? And they would once again upgrade. This is true for people that fall into several categories, none of which by law is supposed to disqualify you from the free file program. This would be tuition, 1099s, unemployment income, people that got the premium tax credit for their healthcare, so got their healthcare through the exchange. Literally doing everything they can to make it not accessible for the free file program. What is particularly notable is that they have a program called Turbotax Free File Program that is also called Free Guaranteed. The name is called Free Guaranteed, but it is not their free file program as they spell out. It is only taxfreedom.com, and you cannot get to it from the actual TurboTax website. You can only get to it by following a link from the IRS. So they have been aggressively advertising. They advertised free all over it during the Super Bowl. They advertised during the Olympics. As far as I can tell, the figure skating Olympics was entirely sponsored by TurboTax. I think I got 5 hours of ads for every 2 hours of figure skating I watched from TurboTax. I mean, slight exaggeration, but not that much. You had to follow the link from the IRS's website. So California actually, Department of Commerce filed against Intuit to say you are falsely advertising the dark patterns that you're using to try to trap people into paying when they actually should not have to pay to file their taxes. Then in July 2019, actually after this ProPublica deep dive investigation into TurboTax's dark patterns came out, there was the Taxpayer Experience Act passed by Congress. AOC and Katie Porter and one other person who I'm not crediting, I'm sorry, I forget who the other co-sponsor was, co-sponsored this Taxpayer Experience Act that in 2019 that essentially said, we have to prioritize taxpayers and their ability to access things like free file. And one of those things it did is it enshrined the program that the IRS had made into law. So what was the IRS's response once that actually was implemented, where they had requirements about what they had to do in order to make, to qualify to be part of the free file program? Well, guess what they did? For the 2021 tax year, they decided to exit the free file program. That being said, guess what they are still doing? Aggressively advertising that there is free filing for taxes in commercials, huge Super Bowl commercials, the Final Four championships. I can only think of sporting events, but very large TV events. They were commercials. If you search for free file, you will get TurboTax ads that emphasize that you have free. But what the Federal Trade Commission has done is they have sued TurboTax during the height of the tax prep season to immediately stop running those ads because they are false advertising. They're saying that most people are not eligible for IRS free file. The fact that they're trapping so many dark patterns here, and they particularly asked for the call for the false advertising to be pulled, which would be, a bad time of year for TurboTax to do that. I will also note that the TurboTax Freedom Edition, if you search this, they will advertise their other program that will once again try to charge you money to file your taxes. What is particularly notable is they are charging people to file for things that actually you only qualify for if you are low income, which I find particularly mean. Like, for example, the earned income tax credit, which is literally for the lowest income workers. The earned income tax credit, they will charge you if you file and you qualify for it. I mean, dark shit. Intuit who owns TurboTax, has said they are going to counterfile. They have also emphasized that, in fact, all of their advertising has meant that more people have free filed this year, and that 100 million people over the past 8 years have filed for free on TurboTax. Once again, somehow failing to note in their lawyer's response that they are not participating in the free file program for this year, but somehow they're including the past 8 years for the free file. So, yes. Oh my gosh, Craig, thank you. You're my first ever super chat. That's very exciting. Thank you. I've never, ever gotten a super chat. I forgot that I had it turned on, so I'm extra excited. Should we just show your cat every time? I think I have your cat still, like, stored in my... Maybe that's what you get. There is a lot of chatter about Canadian taxes and Quebec taxes that I missed because I was so busy going off on my TurboTax rant, and it's now off the screen. But Jenny was saying that here in Quebec, every citizen who earns under $100K a year is being given a weird $500 extra on our taxes from the government in an attempt to buy our votes for an upcoming election. I mean, isn't that kind of the Quebec, like, they love to give free money that the rest of, I mean, you get like the free childcare, the subsidized childcare and stuff in Quebec. I don't know. I'm really speaking like an American here, but I know you get fancier stuff than the other provinces do generally. But yeah, that is really interesting. So in Oregon, we're actually getting money back on our Oregon taxes because Oregon has this super weird thing that's not just this year. It is a thing called a kicker in Oregon. I don't think that many states have it, but essentially if the state overestimates its expenses and has excess in the budget, then they have to give us back to us. The kicker is very bad because it's based on how much taxes you pay. And essentially it's a very regressive policy because they just give huge amounts back to the richest people in the state. And also I would rather that the state, like, hold on to that money. I don't know. We're ranked very low for public schools. We don't have a sales tax. Like, I just feel like they could do other things with that money. But you know. Care for Nola says, taxes are confusing enough, but in my opinion, Congress makes it worse by calling payments to taxpayers credits when they are really subsidies. I do think that, yes, I mostly agree with that. I do think that, some things are credits, right? Because you do get credits that are, in fact, like, you've already paid the taxes and all they do is reduce your tax bill. But I think the fact that, like, one of the only methods that we have of behavior change in this country is really through the tax system because we don't have as much federal power around individual, like, folks' lives. So everything we do through the tax system is part of the reason it gets so complicated and so frustrating. But yes, I do think it is super frustrating, like, generally, and it is, there's a lot of things that are misnamed. I will say that the earned income tax credit, I think, is one of the only things that I think is, like, well named in the tax code because it is exactly what it stands for. It's like you get money back on your taxes, which I guess we could debate the definition of a credit versus a subsidy. You get money back on your taxes if you have earned income. And yeah, Dean says they likely know low-income folks are super busy, overworked, and too exhausted to notice the sneak. Yes. Okay, so speaking of which, if you would like to file your taxes for free, you do need to file the links on the IRS's website from IRS Free File. I used Free Tax USA and like it. Previously, I used H&R Block, but H&R Block, just to be as sneaky as TurboTax, started implementing it that if you have any 1099 income, they were going to charge you to file, and I was deeply opposed to that because, I don't know, most people have some kind of 1099 income. 1099 NEC is what it's called this year, non-employee compensation. Used to be called 1099 miscellaneous. So you have to file that with, and I have that link down in the description below. if you want to utilize it and use it. If your income, your adjusted gross income is over $73,000, you will not qualify for the IRS free file through the free file program. However, there are fillable forms you can use on the IRS for any income level. So if you aren't going to use a paid tax preparer, it is also important to note that any tax preparation expenses that you do incur are deductible on your next year's taxes. So just be aware, if you paid someone last year to help you file, you can deduct that cost on this year's taxes, even if you do not itemize. Also, if you need help and your income is below $73,000 or less in adjusted gross income, then you can use tax aid. It is getting kind of late in the season for it, but there are trained, certified volunteers. It is the largest program in the country. It is run by the AARP. That being said, it is not only for retired people, although they do have a focus on low-income retirees, but they train volunteers. They will do it either remotely or in person. They also have a lot of translators available. So if you do need to help someone that needs help filing, and they need assistance in a language other than English, like my local tax aid group does 22 different languages with assistance with tax preparation. So it is a really, really great program, and they are doing it, like allowing you to do it remote this year. The link for that is down below as well. It is getting kind of late because we are just over a week from the deadline. But yes, and what I do particularly like about that is if you are in the lower income threshold, tax aid volunteers know a lot more about things that maybe a paid tax preparer might not know about. Like, for example, the earned income tax credit was expanded to include childless, self-supporting former foster youth this year. So previously, if you were a childless adult, and your income qualified for the earned income tax credit, you didn't qualify for it until you were age 25, but this year it starts at age 17, and any youth that is self-supporting that is a former foster youth or experiencing homelessness qualifies for it this year, and they might get back a couple $1,000s on their taxes. Unfortunately, that expansion was only for the 2021 tax year, but that is the kind of thing that like everyday tax preparers don't generally know, because they don't tend to work with a lot of clients that fall into that category. But the tax aid volunteers tend to know more about the ins and outs of things that affect particularly very low income taxpayers. So the other thing to know is even if you don't owe, if you are low income, you may in fact qualify for extra money back, like through the EITC, the child tax credit, premium repayments, whatever it might be. So I highly recommend filing. You might qualify for like a HOPE credit or a lifetime learning credit if you're a student. And I think a lot of people just won't file because they're like, whatever, it gets withheld. It's fine. Please file. So, Care for Nola says Vita volunteers for income tax assistant is usually easier than free file. Yes, Vita is the same as tax aid. They are the same program. They all have different like regional names, but yes, they are the same. They are definitely easier than filing yourself. What is said is that they have a lot of demand this year, and unfortunately fewer volunteers, so you may not be able to get it in the next week. So, I don't know what's going on with all of the Quebec taxes in the chat. I don't have. It sounds important, but I like can't follow it because I can't read that fast. But my TurboTax rant is that they suck. They lobby partially to make the tax system really complicated, as do a lot of other tax preparation companies. We're not going to just say it's TurboTax. But in addition to that, they trap people into paying to file their taxes when they should not have to pay to file their taxes online, and they suck. This was another screen from the ProPublica investigation, and if you clicked this button, maximum refund guaranteed, or you clicked start for free, then it wouldn't lead you to the free file page. It only worked if you did the see if you qualify. If you did the start for free, even if you qualified, it would not. So, oh, I like that. Thanks, economist. I do agree that it is a legal and ethical minefield. Okay. Mimi says, I'm a little bit sorry to say I'm distracted by the uneaten donut. I'm bummed I don't know where to find vegan donuts in Buffalo. Well, that was a perfect transition. I guess it is donut time. Okay, so this is a red velvet crispy, and there is like a full-on toasted marshmallow in it. Thanks for the transition, Mimi. Let's do it. I hope I'm gonna like this because it does have chocolate on it, so it's like cocoa ones. Oh, it's not overly chocolatey. I think it's been sitting under the light a little too much. It's a little tough. Cheryl's suggestion is to find vegan donuts in Buffalo is to look at Happy Cow. Yeah, it's actually a really good idea. They might have them. The cat is luring Aaron outside. So some drama is going on. Oh no, don't show my laundry to everybody on the live stream. Mimi says, thanks, I'll try. We have one vegan bakery near me, but no donuts there. Maybe you actually need to start a campaign to get them to make donuts. We had like a local bakery vegan bakery that would make donuts, but they would only make them on Saturdays. So, I don't know. It's worth David says the cat is luring Aaron outside for drama. That sounds vaguely scary. I don't know if you can hear all the meows going on, but this is very dramatic. You should put some Dora on the screen. Oh, you're giving her the whole cat to me. She has feelings. I vacuumed today and I moved the sheets. So she's had a very eventful day. She had to guard the sheets when they were being taken off the bed and act as a weight in the middle of them. And then she had to hide from the vacuum. And then she had to protest because the couch was freshly vacuumed and therefore she couldn't sit on it. So, it's been a very eventful day. David says, I've seen too many sci-fi movies, I guess. I mean, there's that book called How to Tell If Your Cat is Plotting to Kill You. And all of the features are like, stares at you while you sleep. Minnie says, yes, the days I would get my hair washed, my cats had to wash my hair again. Yes. I mean, it's very important that they get their smell back on you, right? Like, they can't possibly have you not smell like it. This is a very interesting donut. What is red velvet like other than chocolate? What's the other flavor? Does anybody know? Because also, I'm very intrigued. The Crispies are all the way through the whole of the donut. John says, Cocoa Donuts here in PDX is gluten-free on weekends only. No vegan as far as I know. It is crunchy. I love crunch. I'm excited about this. I was just thinking about the poor person that works in the bakery that has to get a torch out and torch every single one of the marshmallows on every single one of these donuts. Oh, Mimi says cream cheese icing is what makes it red velvet for me. I mean, it does have this icing. It doesn't seem as thick as like cream cheese would be, but I guess it is fairly thick. Cheryl says, now is time to show the pic of the cat with hands. Let me see if I can put it up on the screen. There we go. Nice and creepy for you. I wonder if we could get her to sit in one place while we did that. John says, stop using that fish-scented shampoo. No, it's not. It's not about that they like the taste. It's just they want to cover it in their own saliva because they need you to smell right. Question. Should I eat this marshmallow by itself? Or should I eat it with this? Because I feel like I might actually get more enjoyment out of that. David says, I stopped trying red velvet after it gave me a scare. Definitely too much red dye in there. Same reason I stopped eating green food in March. This is just a related green dye anecdote, but the skating rink I skated at growing up in Cincinnati would dye the rink for special holidays. And it was like meant to get like public skaters in, but we were still training on the ice, and they would dye it like pink for Valentine's Day and like green for St. Patrick's Day, which was absolutely awful because if you're training figure skating, or if you're just like a regular person going skating who's not very good at skating, you fall on the ice and everything would just get like dyed green because it's a wet surface. And I don't know who thought of it, but Minnie says the same when another cat goes to the vet and comes back, the other cats fight. Dora, when she gets back from the vet, has to take like 5 baths. Completely clean off. Get all the vet smell off of her. Okay. I'm glad I ate that marshmallow separately. However, I should have kept it till the end because now I have all this chocolate taste in my mouth and it's a little more chocolate than I like. So, but I have to finish it. I'm not going to like abandon it. Care for Nola says vegan marshmallows are hard to find. I don't find them hard to find anymore. They used to be hard to find. I will also say that one of the companies that claimed they were making vegan marshmallows then got like investigated by a third party thing where they like, did nutritional auditing on them and found out that they actually were using gelatin. If you're not vegan but you just don't eat like bovine gelatin, I think it's even easier to find kosher marshmallows, which usually use like fish-based gelatin in them instead. But like agar-agar is like way easier to find now than it was, I don't know, in the beginning. I do have a beverage. I have a beverage. Craig says you could expand into ASMR videos with the sound of the chocolate pieces hitting the dish. Interesting sound. Interesting. Here, if I take another bite, will we get it? Is it making your head fuzzy? YouTube, I don't know if it sensed I was stressed out this week or something, but it recommended randomly a video that is ASMR ear massage in Japan. And then it also had someone getting a like calming, the same person getting a calming haircut ASMR inside of a hammock, which seems phenomenal and also completely unreasonable way to get your haircut because like their legs were like up in, and how do they cut the front of one's hair? But yeah. Well, anyway, that channel, it had like several million views of the ear massage, and I watched it and I was like, I want my ears massaged, a thing I never knew I wanted before, but it really made me want them. Cheryl says they sell them at Whole Foods, right? Yeah, they do sell vegan marshmallows, at least at my Whole Foods. Dandies is the brand, I believe, most commonly. There was a brief moment in time, it's happened like 2 seasons, where Trader Joe's had a vegan marshmallow brand, but it's Trader Joe's, so they like introduce things and then they take them away. But Trader Joe's had vegan marshmallows, like, and I think they were only rolling them out like during summer camping season. I haven't seen them again in a while. All right. Donut rating. I'm trying to decide the donut rating. 3 out of 5? Marshmallow was 5 out of 5. It was like perfectly toasted, right? Marshmallow was 5 out of 5. Donut was 3 out of 5. Dean says donut ASMR rating was 4.5. Craig says it sounds like ASMR overload way too much. I think I'm getting a cat. Are we calm now? Because we got continuously carried around for 5 minutes? Still not that calm. The camera is a little too high for the kitten. Might have to get a cat cam over here. It wasn't as ASMR overloaded as it sounds like. I actually found that I got like less of the ASMR tinglies. More just like I was relaxed by listening to someone describe in Japanese the benefits of ear massage and watching someone's ear get massaged. John says, I believe that's called Oxmox. The ear massage thing. That's a joke for Aaron. Great, because I don't get it at all. I don't know if Aaron gets it, but he's doing a Mona Lisa smile back there, so I think he gets it. Apparently it's a DS9 joke. Well, at least that's what David thinks. Oh my god, I don't know what's going on. Y'all are making references I don't understand. She's definitely covering me in cat hair, which is really great. I got a new cat hair remover. This is the updates from Lily's life. I have wanted to get one of these like special kind of cat hair things that I feel like are maybe a little overpriced. These like roller kinds, but people sung the praises of them. I've wanted to get one for a while, and then I found one that's decorated like a cat, and I got it this week, and it arrived today, and that's it. That's the update. It works pretty well. Oh, lost my cat. Now I'm covered in cat hair. Mimi says, where is today's donut from again? Almost all the donuts we get are from Dough Donuts, here in Portland. Minnie says, I used to stock up my place with Dollar Tree lint rollers and give it to guests. That is a smart, if I still had guests at my house, which hasn't happened in a while, I would do that. But, I do try to tell people that, not to sit in a particular chair because I've never been able to successfully remove all of the cat. It's like a velvet chair with like divots in it. And no matter how much I vacuum it, I can't seem to get everything off of it. That being said, this cat hair roller does seem to work well on it. So if I really go at it, it might work. Dean says, prevention being better than a cure, obviously. Yeah, exactly. Just don't sit on the velvet chair. Can I gently... Oh, you're saying the prevention being rolling the cat prior to picking her up? I don't think that would solve anything, because if I roller the cat, the hair will just end up in the air, and eventually it'll land on me anyway. The real problem is she's white on the bottom and dark brown on the top, which means that no clothing is safe. Jenny says packing tape can remove cat hair from velvet chairs. Interesting. The problem is, do I have enough patience to do the entire velvet chair with packing tape? Because I do find that to be a very slow method when I use it, even just like on my own clothes. The other problem is the divots. So like, it's just hard to get down in the divots. I've tried the like rubber glove thing a bunch with it. It doesn't look visibly covered in cat hair. It's just like you sit on it and you realize some cat hair has ended up on you, and I don't really entirely know where it's coming from. So, Mimi says my one and only Portland visit was a few days in 2017. We only had time to check out one donut place, Voodoo. It was okay. Blah. I mean, they are a Portland institution, so I don't blame you. But one, they also, similar to Amazon, have gotten in trouble with the Labor Commission for union busting and illegally firing workers who tried to unionize, and made workers work when it was 114 degrees outside in an unair-conditioned donut kitchen, which means it was even hotter in the kitchen. And when a ton of employers were, like, even office employers or people who were working from home were having people cancel because tons of people don't have AC here, and it was 114 freaking degrees outside. We're not, like, prepared for this. We are not Arizona. People don't have AC in their house. Like, my office doesn't even have AC. Anyway, there were tons of places were closed, and Voodoo was still making workers work, and fired them for saying that it was unsafe conditions. And so, yeah. Also, Voodoo donuts are not that great. Although I have attended a Harry Potter punk rock show there. And for years, they were like one of the main donors to Breakfast on the Bridges, which is like a thing we do where we volunteer and we serve breakfast on the bridges, which is about to celebrate its 20th year this year. And I've been doing it for 14 years, I think. But that being said, Dough Donuts is better. If you're going for vegan donuts, Dough Donuts is better. Blue Star is better. The Sweet Pea Donuts does them only on Saturday, or Sweet Pea Bakery does them only on Saturdays. Other vegan donuts. And I think those are the main ones. Those are the main good ones. Yeah. And then Dough is, I think, the best of all of it. Mimi says, good to know. We visited in July 2017. Temps in the 90s, terribly hot and humid. Next time I'll ask you folks. Yeah, it was temps in the 90s. Also, we don't know how to function, so I'm very sorry. I think July 2017 was before Voodoo did their expansion too. I've known a lot of people that worked at Voodoo. It was kind of like the punk rock job to get. But I will also say that like they like didn't pay their employees a lot of the time, and they like pay people in cash, and it was just like terribly disorganized. And now they're like large, like they have like location in Colorado. They have like quite a few Voodoo locations, and as far as I can tell from people I know that work there, they haven't gotten any better at like running their business. But the founder is a major donor to a ton of different organizations, including the radio station I used to work for. So I should probably not crap on that too much. But, you know, don't union bust and illegally fire employees when they when forcing them to work in unsafe conditions. And the union busting, like they have to file the election. They have to do the vote again. Jenny did thank you very much for doing the Celsius conversion for us. I think on the live stream where I talked about it being super hot when it was super hot and that was all we could think about. I did the conversion, but 114 Fahrenheit is 45 degrees Celsius. That is in fact really freaking hot. I know that they deal with it like every day in Arizona in August. But yeah, but like we don't know how to deal with it. My like work from home company, like it was middle of the pandemic when we had that crazy hot day last summer, and I can work from home and have been able to work from home along, but I went downtown to the office for the first time since March 2020 in July or August, whenever the super hot like 3 days was. Because I thought, I don't have AC in my house. There, I think, is AC in the office building, so it'll be better. The AC in the office building was broken, and I didn't know it till I got down there, and then all the buses stopped being able to run, and the Max shut down, and so then I had to bike home. I, like, biked into work at 6 a.m., and it was already, like, 94 degrees outside, which was, like, 36 Fahrenheit, at, like, 6:30 in the morning. Because I was like, oh, I have to bike in early before it'll get super hot. But then I was stuck down there, and I biked home in 114 degree weather, and it was possibly the worst bike ride of my life. And it was only like 5-mile bike ride. And I actually contemplated if I was going to be able to make it all the way home. I was like a mile from my house, and I was like, I don't know what to do. So yeah, it was rough. Uh, Cheryl says, yeah, Portland rental agents still try to pretend you don't need AC. I mean, that was the thing is like, we used to not need it. Like we used to get like a couple really hot days, maybe once a year, but definitely not like 114-degree days. I remember you all got your AC installed, right? In like right after I think it was the summer 2017 when we had those like super crazy hot days and you were just like, screw it, and got AC installed. We will have AC in our new place, which I'm excited about. We don't have AC in this place installed. We live in like a 40-ish unit apartment building. But we do have like a rollaway AC, which essentially was purchased without my input when I was out of town when it was really hot. But I have come to really appreciate it. So we don't have to run it that often, but we also, because we're like on an upper floor and in a slightly newer build, our place is well enough insulated that we almost never have to turn on the heat in the winter, even when it's like well below freezing. I mean, it's not Buffalo, New York cold here, but we almost never have to turn on the heat. Like we had a ice storm here and we still didn't have to turn on the heat because the house trapped so much heat. So, Cheryl says that was the first week we lived here, 2014. Are you serious? Also, you've lived here since 2014. Oh my gosh. Time is fake. David says, I was in Portland 1 week in a year for several years in a row, and it coincided with those 100-degree days. I mean, that's the problem with when Indie Web Summit happens, is that it always happens like around that time. And I love how every year we're all like, all the locals are like, this isn't normal. Jenny says Humidex makes heat worse. So if you're in a humid area, your sweat can't evaporate and your body overheats dangerously in high temperatures. Yeah, I don't think that we had, I don't think the humidity was crazy high. Where I'm from, the humidity is like really high in the summer. Was the humidity really high, Aaron? Do you remember? There's a lot of things going on with the cat behind the camera. I wish you could see what's happening, but essentially she's falling asleep being held like a baby by Aaron, but she's still got some fight in her, so she's just pawing at his face every so often as she falls asleep. It's a lot going on here. But the yeah, it's definitely been interesting to see how it has changed, but I don't think the humidity is crazy high here. It's definitely like Arizona obviously has almost no humidity, but they do have extremely high temperatures. So Dean says that sounds scary. Too much heat is not good. So notably, it was extremely scary. I think we had 52 people die during the heat wave here in Portland. The cooling shelters were not working. The max was down. Because it can't run in those temperatures. The switches like malfunction. The max is our light rail here. Like there were really big problems. And the majority of people that died were low income people. Also that bike ride I did back, like we have a lot of camping going on downtown, because we have such a housing crisis. And, you know, I hadn't been downtown, to the office but like very much during the pandemic, but every time I was downtown, those like most people were still in their camps. They were up. We also have some like sanctioned camping blocks and stuff downtown. That day, every tent was down. Like people had deflated their tents. No one was out on the street because everybody was in the cooling shelters because it was impossible to stay outside. So yeah. John says, even if it isn't horribly hot, you're going to need it for fire season. Well, that was the thing, is that we ran our AC during the really bad air quality here when it was in the like 500s for AQI, and it was really awful. And we only found out like the third day that it was actually making things worse because our building has the hallways have, so we don't have an outside door. We have a door to a internal hallway like up in the building. But there's an intake from the outside that like circulates air, and like they were proclaiming that during COVID as like, look, we have extensive ventilation. The problem was during COVID we had the worst air quality in the world for like a week, and we were trying to run our AC, and we had gotten like a furnace filter to it to try to like get it to filter some air. And later what we realized was happening is it was pulling air it had to pull air from somewhere, and it was pulling air under the door of our apartment, which is like a big, heavy, fire-safe door, but it was pulling the bad air from the like apartment hallway into our apartment. It was actually making the air quality worse. We, despite not having at the time an air purifier, we did have an internal AQI monitor, which is, looking back, weird. But we were able to see that the AQI in our apartment dropped when we stopped running the AC, interestingly enough. So yeah, it was really ridiculous. It smelled like you were walking directly into a campfire when you opened the door to our indoor hallway of our apartment building. It was so bad during that really bad air quality. I'm now appropriately terrified of the bad air quality, and we have an air purifier, which showed up a day or two after the really bad air broke. So super helpful. But we also have backup filters and everything, so hopefully it will be fine. David says, I asked Aaron to turn down the heat. He did not oblige. Aaron, why did you not control the climate? I feel every year of that, no humidity here. Yeah, I do feel like compared to where I'm from, Cincinnati, the humidity is just like so much worse in Cincinnati in the summer. Also, I will say, even though we're getting more and more hot days in the summer here, like there was far more consistent like 90-degree days in the summer. And like the summer was kind of miserable in Cincinnati because it was super humid, and it would be for a lot more days, I think, above 90 Fahrenheit, 34, 35 Celsius. I think that's right. So like there were a lot more days where it was that hot. All right. Oh, Minnie says, too hot temps flare up my MS. Yeah, super hot temperatures are bad for my joints, but my joints actually do prefer warm temperatures, but for my own personal temperature, I prefer not to be hot. But my joints like the warm. But yeah, any kind of like climate stress, like where my thermoregulation is like wildly influenced, makes my arthritis flare up one way or the other. So it turns out our immune systems don't like it when we're not in equilibrium, I guess, if we have an autoimmune disorder. All right, so I think we're gonna wrap up. I guess this was our flu for the week. Should we play the flu for the week theme song and then look at this cat again? Reminder, flu for the week is very cute creatures that are sponsored, that are the creatures usually of patrons, members of the Personal Finance Society. So if you are a patron or become one, you can fill in the little Google form that gets mailed to you when you join, or just email me at questions@ohmydollar with your floof and some facts about them and some pictures, and they will be featured on Flu for the Week. So, feel free to do that. And if you've had your Flu for the Week featured before, but it's been a while, feel free to resubmit it. Just send it again. I'm happy to keep... Dory gets featured almost every week, so... Oh my god. I have a cat. All right. I think we might be wrapped up, y'all. Thank you for joining this week. If anybody has a suggestion for future topics, I know that we got the recommendation for a discussion about gas prices, which I am more than happy to oblige, given that I actually have one of my old podcasts was called Transportini, and I covered the vehicle miles traveled tax, and I can talk about transportation till the cows come home, and prices. So I'm getting a very helpful kitten here. Look at a little cat mug in the background. It looks so cute. I'm getting an angry tail on my thigh too. You might not be able to tell. She just to be clear, she like wants attention, but then she's angry when she gets attention. So
what is this?
She is absolutely done with the fact that we are not paying attention to her. So I think we need to be done. David says, I listened to Transpertini. I'm sad it's canceled. What just happened? I think Dora just decided to attack Aaron, so I think it might be time to leave. We have a request from our multiple times floof the week for our engineer to pay attention to her, so I guess it is time to go. And what are you doing? Why are you like this? All right. Thank you all very much, and we will see you next week, same time, same place, and hopefully we'll have an edited video out before that live stream. All right, cheers. Bye. Stay hydrated.